My mother
My
is
mother
dead.
is dead.
Dr. Emeka
Security,
Okafor
throw this
said those
woman
words
out.
clearly, loudly, in the lobby of Victoria Island Hospital where he worked. His colleagues stared, his fiancée gasped, and his real mother, the woman who had worked 3 jobs to send him to school, who had worn only 2 dresses for years so he could have books, who had prayed for him every single night, stood frozen with her arms, still reaching out to hug her son. The plastic bag fell from her hands. Roasted corn and dried fish scattered across the hospital floor. Security guards began moving toward her. "Please escort this woman out," Emeka commanded. "She's disturbing the hospital." This is the story of how a brilliant doctor became a monster, and how only a mother's love could make him human again. In the small village of Ikeja, where the red earth met the endless sky, there lived a woman named Mama Kemi. She was not beautiful by the world standards, AI. Her hands were rough from washing other people's clothes. Her back was bent from carrying heavy loads, and her only dress was faded from too many washings. But her heart held more love than all the treasures in Lagos. Mama Kemi had only one child in this world, a bright boy named Emeka. When Emeka was born, his father took one look at the crying baby and the tired woman holding him, and walked away forever. "I cannot feed another mouth," he said. And those were the last words Emeka would ever hear about his father. But Mama Kemi looked at her son's small face and made a promise that would shape the rest of her life. "My child, I will give you everything I never had. I will make sure you become somebody important." From the time Emeka could walk, Mama Kemi's life became a daily sacrifice. Every morning before the sun rose, she would wake up and look at her 2 dresses, the blue one with patches on the elbows and the brown one with holes near the hem. She would choose one to wear and wash the other by hand, hanging it to dry so she would have clean clothes tomorrow. While other women in the village had at least 3 or 4 dresses, Mama Kemi had spent the money she would have used for more clothes on Emeka's school fees instead. When the rains came and her roof leaked, she used bowls to catch the water rather than fix the roof, because every naira was saved for her son's education. "Mama, why don't you have nice clothes like Teacher Blessing?" 6-year-old Emeka asked one day, looking at his mother's worn dress. "Because, my son, I am planting seeds," Mama Kemi replied, kneeling down to his level. "When you plant a garden, you must water it every day, even when you are thirsty. You must give it the best soil, even if it means you have rocky ground to walk on. One day, my garden will bloom with the most beautiful flowers." "What flowers, Mama?" "You, my child, you are my garden." But as Emeka grew older and started school, he began to see his mother differently. The other children had mothers who wore jewelry and nice shoes to school events. Their mothers had handbags and spoke English with confidence. Their mothers didn't have dirt under their fingernails or patches on their clothes. Mama Kemi worked 3 jobs to pay for Emeka's school fees. In the morning, she washed clothes for the wealthy families in the next village. In the afternoon, she sold roasted corn by the roadside. In the evening, she cleaned the local clinic. Her hands became so rough they felt like tree bark, and her feet were always swollen from standing all day. When Emeka was 8 years old, his class was preparing for a school play where all the parents would come to watch. Emeka was chosen to play the prince because he was the smartest boy in his class. He was so excited to tell his mother. "Mama! Mama!" He ran home that day. "I am going to be the prince in the school play. All the parents will come to watch." Mama Kemi's face lit up with joy. "Oh, my son, I am so proud of you. I will come and cheer the loudest of all the mothers." But that night, as Emeka lay in bed, he began to worry. He thought about his classmate Chidi's mother, who always wore beautiful wraps and gold earrings. He thought about Aduni's mother, who had a car and spoke perfect English. Then he thought about his own mother, with her patched dress and rough hands. The day of the school play arrived. Mama Kemi had saved money for 2 weeks to buy a new wrap for the occasion. It wasn't expensive, just a simple cloth from the market. but it was the most beautiful thing she had owned in years. She braided her hair carefully and arrived at the school early, sitting in the front row so she could see her son clearly. When Emeka came on stage as the prince, wearing his costume, he looked out at the audience and saw his mother's beaming face. But instead of feeling proud, he felt embarrassed. He saw how her wrap was much simpler than the other mothers' clothes. He saw how she was the only mother without jewelry or fancy shoes. He saw how some of the other mothers whispered and pointed at her. After the play, when all the families were taking pictures together, Emeka did something that would haunt him for the rest of his life. When his mother approached him with arms wide open, ready to hug him and tell him how wonderful he was, Emeka stepped back. "Who is that woman?" his friend Chidi asked, pointing at Mama Kemi. Emeka looked at his mother's expectant face, then at his classmates' curious eyes. I don't know," he mumbled. Mama Kemi's smile froze on her face. She had heard what her son said. For a moment, she couldn't breathe. The other mothers stopped talking and stared. The silence felt like thunder. "Emeka," Mama Kemi whispered, her voice shaking. "My son?" But Emeka had already turned away, pretending to be busy with his costume. That night, Mama Kemi sat on her bed and cried silently. She looked at the beautiful wrap she had bought, the first new thing she had owned in 2 years, and remembered how excited she had been to wear it for her son. She thought about all the mornings she had gone hungry so Emeka could have breakfast. She thought about all the times she had worked extra hours so he could have new school books. "Maybe I am not good enough for him," she whispered to herself in the darkness. "Maybe he needs a better mother." But the next morning, she woke up before dawn as always, washed her 2 dresses as always, and prepared Emeka's breakfast with the same love as always. Because that's what mothers do. They love even when love is not returned. From that day forward, Emeka began to avoid being seen with his mother. When she came to pick him up from school, he would hide behind the building until she left, then walk home alone. When she tried to attend his school events, he would tell her the wrong date or time. When his teachers asked about his parents, he would say his mother was sick and couldn't come. Mama Kemi noticed these things, but she said nothing. She continued to sacrifice, continued to work, continued to pray for her son every night. She told herself that one day, when he was older, he would understand. One day, he would be proud of her. But what she didn't know was that with each denial, each hidden shame, each lie he told about her, Emeka was planting seeds of bitterness in his own heart. Seeds that would grow into a harvest of regret that would nearly destroy them both. As Emeka grew into his teenage years, his shame about his mother grew like weeds in an untended garden. He was now 15 years old and one of the brightest students in his secondary school. His teachers praised him constantly and his classmates looked up to him. But the better he did in school, the more ashamed he became of where he came from. Mama Kemi continued her 3 jobs, working harder than ever. Emeka was now in his final years of secondary school and the fees were higher. She had to buy more expensive textbooks, pay for extra lessons, and save money for his university entrance exams. Some days, she would go without eating lunch so she could afford to buy him the books he needed. "Mama, you are getting too thin," their neighbor Mama Chinyere would say when she saw her. "You need to eat more." "Food is not important," Mama Kemi would reply with a tired smile. "My son's education is what matters. When he becomes a doctor, then I will eat well." But Emeka never heard these conversations. He was always careful to avoid being home when neighbors might visit. He had developed a system of lies and hiding that kept his 2 worlds apart: his school life, where he was respected and admired, and his home life, where his mother loved him but embarrassed him. One day, Emeka's English teacher, Mr. Johnson, called him aside after class. "Emeka, your essay about your dreams was beautiful. You want to become a doctor and help people. That's wonderful. But I noticed you never talk about your family. Tell me about your parents. They must be very proud of such a brilliant son." Emeka's heart started beating fast. He had been dreading this moment for years. My father died when I was very young, he said quietly. This was not exactly a lie, since his father had never been part of his life. I'm sorry to hear that. What about your mother? What does she do? Emeka looked down at his feet. She works in business, he mumbled. That's nice. I would love to meet her during our parent-teacher conference next month. It's important for parents to be involved in their children's education. She travels a lot for work. She might not be able to come. Mr. Johnson nodded. Well, try to ask her. I'm sure she would want to hear about how well you're doing. That evening, Emeka went home with a heavy heart. When he entered their small room, he found his mother sitting by the window, sewing a torn seam in his school uniform by hand. Her fingers were bleeding slightly from pricking them with the needle, but she continued working carefully. Welcome home, my son, she said with a bright smile. How was school today? Fine, Emeka replied, not looking at her. I fixed your uniform. The sleeve was torn, but now it looks good as new. Tomorrow I will wash it so it will be clean for you. Emeka looked at his mother, really looked at her, for the first time in weeks. Her hair was getting grey at the temples. Her face looked older and more tired than he remembered. Her dress, one of the same two she had been wearing for years, was faded and worn thin. Mama, he said suddenly, don't come to my school anymore. Mama Kemi stopped sewing and looked up at him. What do you mean, my son? I mean, if there are any school events or meetings, don't come. I can handle everything myself. But Emeka, I want to hear about your progress. I want to meet your teachers and see how well you are doing. You don't need to do that. Just stay home. Mama Kemi felt a pain in her chest, but she forced herself to smile. If that's what you want, my son, you know better about school things than I do. That night, she cried quietly into her pillow, wondering what she had done wrong. But the next morning, she woke up early as always, prepared his breakfast as always, and sent him off to school with her blessings as always. The parent-teacher conference came and went. Emeka told Mr. Johnson that his mother was traveling for business and couldn't attend. He forged her signature on his report card and handled everything himself. Your mother must trust you a lot to let you handle these things alone, Mr. Johnson commented. Yes, she does, Emeka replied, hating himself for the lie but unable to stop. As his final exams approached, the pressure on Mama Kemi increased. She needed to find money for his examination fees, university application forms, and new clothes for his graduation. She started working a fourth job, washing dishes, at a local restaurant late at night after her other jobs were finished. Now she was working from dawn until nearly midnight. Her hands became so swollen she could barely hold things. Her back ached constantly from bending over washing basins and cleaning floors. But every morning, she would count the money she had saved and smile, knowing she was getting closer to her goal. Just a little more, she would whisper to herself. Just a little more, and my son will be in university. One evening, Emeka came home to find his mother collapsed on the floor of their room. She had fainted from exhaustion and hunger. Mama, Mama, he cried, helping her sit up and giving her water. I'm fine, my son, she said weakly. Just a little tired. When did you last eat? He asked. Mama Kemi had to think about it. Yesterday, or maybe the day before, I'm not sure. For the first time in years, Emeka felt a stab of guilt. His mother was killing herself to pay for his education, and he was ashamed of her. Mama, you need to eat. You can't work so hard. Don't worry about me, she said, struggling to stand up. Did you finish your homework? Your exams are coming soon. Forget about my homework. You just fainted. Your education is more important than my tiredness. Promise me you will study hard and pass all your exams. Looking at his mother's weak but determined face, Emeka felt torn between love and shame. He loved her. He had never stopped loving her, but he was still embarrassed by her poverty, her rough hands, her simple way of speaking. I promise, Mama, he whispered. A few weeks later, the results came out. Emeka had not only passed all his exams with excellent grades, but he had also won a scholarship to study medicine at the University of Lagos. When the news came, Mama Kemi danced around their small room like a young girl. My son is going to be a doctor," she shouted with joy. "Thank you, God. Thank you for answering my prayers." She immediately went to tell all the neighbors. "My Emeka won a scholarship. He's going to university to become a doctor." But when she turned to hug her son, she found him standing quietly in the corner, not celebrating. "Emeka, why are you not happy? This is the greatest day of our lives." "I am happy, Mama," he said, but his voice was flat. The truth was, Emeka was thinking about university life in Lagos. He was thinking about meeting new people, sophisticated people who came from wealthy families. He was thinking about how he would explain his background, his mother, his humble beginnings. And in his heart, he was already making plans to leave all of this behind, including her. 5 years later, Emeka had become Dr. Emeka Okafor. He graduated from the University of Lagos with the highest honors and was now working at the most prestigious hospital in Victoria Island, Lagos. He wore expensive suits, drove a nice car, and lived in a beautiful apartment that his mother had never seen. During his university years, Emeka had completely cut himself off from his past. When his new friends asked about his family, he would say his parents were in business and lived up north. He never went home to visit his mother during holidays, always making excuses about being busy with studies or work. Mama Kemi didn't understand why her son had become so distant. She would send him letters through the village post office, but he rarely replied. When she managed to call him using the village telephone, their conversations were short and cold. "How are you, my son?" she would ask, her voice full of love and longing. "I'm fine, Mama. Very busy with work." "Are you eating well? Are you taking care of your health?" "Yes, Mama. I have to go now." "Wait, Emeka. When will you come home to visit? I miss you so much." "I don't know. Maybe soon. Goodbye, Mama." But he never came. What Mama Kemi didn't know was that even though her son never visited, she never stopped working for him. She continued her 3 jobs, sending him money every month, even though he was now earning his own salary. "But why do you still work so hard?" Mama Chinyere asked her one day. "Your son is a doctor now. He should be sending you money, not the other way round." "A mother's work is never finished," Mama Kemi replied, packaging some dried fish and vegetables to send to Lagos. "He is still young and needs to save his money for his future. When he gets married and has children, then he can take care of me." She continued to wake up at dawn, continued to work until midnight, continued to go hungry, so she could send money to her son, who no longer needed it. But love doesn't use logic. Love just gives. Every night, Mama Kemi would kneel by her bed and pray for hours. "God, please bless my son. Keep him healthy and safe. Help him to be successful and respected. Bring him a good wife who will love him. Give him children who will bring him joy. Protect him from all harm and evil. Let his hands heal many people. Make him the best doctor in all of Lagos." She would pray until her knees ached, listing every blessing she could think of for her son. Sometimes she would fast for days, believing that her sacrifice would bring him more blessings. Meanwhile, in Lagos, Dr. Emeka was living a life his mother could never imagine. He attended fancy parties with other doctors and wealthy business people. He dated sophisticated women who wore designer clothes and spoke perfect English. He had completely recreated himself as a man from a good family with a proper background. One evening, he was at a medical conference dinner when Dr. Sarah Adeleke, a beautiful surgeon from a wealthy family, approached him. "Dr. Okafor, I've heard wonderful things about your work. You are quite impressive for someone so young." "Thank you, Dr. Adeleke. I've worked very hard to get where I am. I'm sure your family must be very proud. What do your parents do?" Emeka had told this lie so many times it came naturally now. "My father was in business before he passed away. My mother manages some family investments." "I'm sorry about your father. Your mother sounds like a strong woman. I'd love to meet her sometime. She's very private, doesn't like social events much. As the months passed, Emeka and Sarah began dating seriously. She was everything he had dreamed of: educated, wealthy, beautiful, and from a respected family. When she talked about her parents, her father, the judge, and her mother, the university professor, Emeka felt both admiration and fear. What would they think if they knew the truth about his background? One day, Sarah suggested something that made Emeka's blood run cold. "Darling, I think it's time you met my parents. And I would love to meet your mother. Why don't we plan a trip so I can be introduced to your family?" That's not necessary," Emeka said quickly. "She's very busy with her business affairs. But we've been together for 8 months. It would be rude not to meet each other's families." "Maybe later," Emeka said, changing the subject. But Sarah was persistent. Over the weeks, she kept bringing up the topic of meeting his family. Finally, to stop her questions, Emeka told the biggest lie of his life. "Actually, Sarah, I need to tell you something. My mother passed away 2 years ago.